Hello all, it's James Johnson, aka Sulfur Blade. Welcome back to my channel, welcome back to my content, and welcome to a very special game for me. It's one of my all-time, well, it's becoming one of my all-time favorites. I only recently discovered it this year, so hard to call it all-time favorite quite yet, but it's rapidly getting there. Heads Will Roll Reforged is just a fabulous game. I can't say enough about it, and that's odd for me because I'm not a person that usually gets excited about roguelike type games, and this is a roguelike type game that you end up playing again and again and again and again. But you'll see what I'm talking about, so let's just jump in. We're going to start a new game. We're going to go with James, and we're gonna do Heads Will Roll difficulty. It's the only way to play this. This is permadeath, so if I die at any time throughout this playthrough, well, the playthrough ends immediately at that point in time, and yeah, it's game over. So I'm gonna create manually. That's the way I like to do it. As you can see, I have a lot of points, and I'm level 704. This is a pretty darn high level. You're not going to get there at your first, second, or third, or fourth playthrough. You're going to have to play through this game several times before you can ever reach this level of strength. So you will find that when you watch my playthrough, it's going to be very different than your playthrough if you're playing for the first time. You are going to be significantly weaker than my character is going to be out of the gates. So maybe that might be a little unfair. Well, I wouldn't call it unfair. I earned my level at this point through many deaths, but it's the whole concept of how this game plays. You play it again and again so you can get a little bit stronger, so you can make it a little further, and it's cool. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, there's a new DLC that just recently came out for this game, and I just got it. It adds multiple new endings. Granted, this game already had a lot of endings, and I've only, I think, gotten to the end twice. I've only gotten 2 of the endings, and the game had like 20 endings, and now it has 24 endings. So, yeah, I'm nowhere near reaching the pinnacle of what this game has to offer. Anyway, let's jump in. Hopefully, I might be able to help you out with creating a character. Though, again, I have a lot more points to spend than you do. Weapon and civics talents are kind of a luxury. Your weapon skill, though, is maybe the most important skill that you can pick other than your attributes here. So what I tend to go with, because I have lots of points, I can just go nuts. So I'm gonna just dump it all. I can only go as high as 10 melee weapon skill in character creation, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take a couple of civic talents, and I'm gonna take a couple of weapon talents because I can afford to do it. I've got lots of points. These are very expensive, what I just picked. If you're brand new, I wouldn't get any civic talents. If you're brand new, I wouldn't be worrying about getting weapon talents either. You just can't afford these picks at all. The talents are a luxury. However, if you can get some points in whichever weapon skill you're planning to go with, it's good to do. Now, I'm going to show you how I do my attributes. I go with lots of attributes, except for one attribute, and that is vitality. And that's not because I don't think vitality is important. I'm not there. There's actually a camp in this game that doesn't really believe in vitality that much. I don't agree with that. I think vitality is awesome, but the reason I don't pick vitality is because it's the one stat you can always train. Depending on what stage of the game you're at, there are certain stages of the game where you can't train a particular stat past a certain level. And in the beginning of the game, most of these stats can only be trained to, I think, like 6 before it won't let you train them any higher than 6 in the very, very, very beginning. So if I started with everything at 10, for instance, if I crank this up to 10, I wouldn't be able to train my character. I would have nothing to do with my character for a period of time when I would normally be using that time for training. So I purposely leave vitality low so that I can actually train my character. And the reason I do vitality is because there's a skill called Colossus. For every 3 points you train vitality, you get a free point of strength. And that's a civic talent. It's the very first civic talent I ever get on my character. It's in my opinion, the most important of all civic talents is Colossus. Not only does it give you a point of strength for every 3 points of vitality you train, it gives you a point of vitality and strength for each chapter of the game. So you can get a lot out of the Colossus skill, especially if you make it your very first pick. It's going to be lots of free attributes that your character is going to thrive with. Alright, with that being said, I'm going to crank craftsmanship up to 7. Not 8, 7. At 8, you can craft pretty much anything. However, in order to do some of the crafting that you need in game, you're probably going to need a chest. And in order to get the chest, you need to talk to the blacksmith. And you have to do his quest to get access to the chest. That's going to help you be able to craft in the first couple of stages of the game. Because you have to do that blacksmith step where you do a job for the blacksmith 3 times. Basically, you work for the blacksmith 3 times. You're going to earn the skill to up your craftsmanship from 7 to 8 because of those because you're going to work for the blacksmith 3 times. If I picked 8, well then I would be earning skill towards skill I don't really need anymore. So again, because I'm going to be working for the blacksmith as part of the story, it's a given. Well, I might as well get the skill points to level 8. So I can save myself a little bit of generation by going to 7 instead of 8. 8, you can pretty much craft everything you need in the game. 7, you can't quite do it. But because you're going to end up working for the blacksmith, you're going to get 8 anyway. So now, I think, at this stage, I think, well, what kind of weapon am I planning to use in this playthrough? Am I going to use a big axe, or am I going to use a fancy short sword, or what weapon attribute is more important for me? And some weapons are more agility based, some weapons are more strength based. And then I think about that, and then I invest in a particular stat real high. However, because I have all these damn generation points, I just at this point, I just crank them all up because I have the luxury to do so. So I might as well do it. I mean, starting with all of these this is insane. This is just, yeah, you could only dream when you start off of being able to have a character starting off like this. This is insanity. Anyway, but yeah, that's my tip about vitality, is to leave it down at the bottom because you're going to be training. You're going to want to have something to train. And if you pump it up real high like the rest of these stats, you're not going to be able to train anything. So I leave vitality low so that I have something to train. Anyway, let's keep doing what we're doing here. Again, because I have all these free points to spend, I actually tend to get armor. In this circumstance, I'm going to go with... well, I pretty much always go with chainmail. I usually go with the three most important pieces of chainmail in my mind, which is the Aventail, the chest piece, and the reinforced mail gauntlet. This, for 1 agility penalty point, gives you 826. And it only costs 90, so this is a cost-effective piece of gear. If you look at the glove right next to it, which is just the chainmail glove, again, 1 agility penalty. They both have the exact same agility penalty. This one costs 70. For only 20 more, you can get a much better piece of equipment. 826 compared to 635, 6. So I always go with the reinforced mail gauntlet. It's just the way I do it. For the longest time, these were the only 3 pieces of armor I would get at character generation. But now that I am getting to the point where I have more and more generation points to burn, I've started getting more things than I used to. So I will probably end up getting these greaves because, again, these penalties are what you're going to want to look at. So, for example, the mail stockings give 110 at 745.5. Well, these greaves give 110 at 1325.7. Okay, this is flat out more armor. Yes, you're going to have a little bit less coverage, but it's a fair trade-off, and you're going to get more prestige with the same agility and endurance penalty as if you were to wear this guy here. Yes, this is a more expensive piece of gear by 60, but I've got the points to burn. So I'm going to go with these greaves over the mail stockings because it's agility and endurance friendly. Which was the same reason that I picked these reinforced gauntlets. Now I'm going to go to trinkets. This is, other than physical attributes and weapon skill, these trinkets can make or break your build. They are almost impressively powerful, and they are the items that can most make your build into a build. Every other character is just a character until you throw the trinkets into the mix. Once you throw the trinkets into the mix, you start having a very unique character, and I'll try to explain what I'm talking about. So Like, for example, this is a poison dart. It takes away virtue. It increases poison damage dealt to enemies by 2. Okay, we're looking at some sort of poison build here if you're going to be taking a poison dart. So you would probably want to match up a poison dart with other trinkets that somehow affect poison damage. So that would be a poison type build that you could make. The parrying dagger gives weapon skill. If you don't know what trinkets to get, trinkets that give you weapon skill are amazingly good. And I tend often to just go with the same 3 trinkets that I always go with. And those 3 trinkets I'm going to use again in this particular playthrough because I think these 3 trinkets, in my opinion, are the 3 most powerful trinkets you can get to get your character off the ground. That is the parrying dagger, because it gives 2 weapon skill. Weapon skill is just an incredibly valuable skill in the game that can turn you into a hero if you have a lot of weapon skill. So with that being said, this ring right here, the Swordmaster's ring, gives you +3 weapon skill. You're seeing a trend here. Now I'm going with another trinket that gives me even more weapon skill. This one also will make me resistant to blinds from enemy feints, which that's nice icing on the cake. I'm mainly getting this for the weapon skill, but you would be well, if you play this game, you won't be that surprised at how often the enemy attempts to use feints against you, and fairly often succeeds. But he can't blind me because of this ring. So this is a ring that you can get a lot of value off of. And not just because of the weapon skill. So I think this particular trinket is incredibly powerful. Now, these are the 2 trinkets I consider like my must-have trinkets. Typically, I want to have my weapon skill starting at 15, so I've got it maxed out at 10. I can't take any more here, and then with the 2 and the 3 from here, I'll be starting at 15. That's as high as I can start off the game with. I'll be like God in the beginning of the game because of these trinkets and this weapon skill. Now, the 3rd trinket I have more flexibility on. Oftentimes, it depends on my mood. I'll show you some of the trinkets that I like a lot, and some trinkets that, well, okay. The torture mask. This is a particular trinket I like a lot. What it does is anytime you injure a target, if you then follow up afterwards and kill the target, so if the target dies while it's injured, you get a free point of vitality. And as long as this trinket is equipped, it will continue to rack up more and more and more and more and more vitality. But it only will give you that vitality if the trinket is equipped. If you unequip it, then you lose all that vitality that you built up. So this is a cool trinket that will help you build up your vitality, which is basically going to give you more health. However, it only works if you injure your target and then kill your target after you've injured it. I'm currently planning to go heavy axe, and the thing with the heavy axe is it will often kill most targets in one shot. It's a very, very strong weapon. So most of these kills I'm going to get, there is not going to be any injury. So the torture mask is not going to work very well for me. If I was using a different weapon in this playthrough, one that did less damage and was more likely to injure, then I would probably be inclined to use the torture mask. It can be very valuable paired with a weapon that's likely to injure and does less damage and doesn't one-shot things. So keep that in mind when you're selecting the torture mask. Okay, another trinket I've come to respect is the death-defying pendant. In fact, I credit this particular trinket with helping me finish the game for the very first time. The lower your health gets, basically the more dodge you get, the better chance of evading an enemy attack. So the less health you have, the more likely the enemy is going to miss you when it tries to hit you with a weapons attack. On some of the endings, you end up facing these annoying crossbowmen, and it seems like crossbowmen never miss. Unless you have this wonderful trinket. Because if you have this wonderful trinket, and you were hit by a few crossbowmen earlier in the fights, and your health is rather low, they're more likely to miss you. Which is going to more likely give you the opportunity to kill them, which is going to allow you to actually finish the game in some of those endings. This is a powerful trinket. However, you tend to get the ability to pick this up later on in the game. It tends to rear its head later on in the game. So I could get it now, but honestly, it's not going to do much for me while I'm overpowered in the beginning of the game. This pendant is going to do very little for me, because I'm not going to be injured very often, if ever. But at the end of the game, when the danger and the strength of the enemies really, really, really ramp up, and you get those annoying crossbowmen, this pendant is very strong. So I might end up swapping out one of my trinkets for this trinket. And it won't be these two I'm swapping out. It will likely be the third trinket I'm planning to get in this run. That's this sharp dagger. Why am I going with the sharp dagger? Because it gives me 3 extra damage to my weapon. Just flat 3 extra damage every time I use my weapon and hit. I'll get 3 extra damage. It's locked in. It's forever. This is the most damaging, the most extra damage you can probably get out of. Well, that's not true. This is the most reliable trinket, I think, for getting extra damage. There is a trinket that can get you more extra damage than this one, and I'll show you that one next, because it's another trinket that I think is pretty strong. But you're not going to unlock this one till a long time. This is one of the very last trinkets that unlocks for you. It's called the Bear Paw, and basically what it does is it will give you 1/4 of your strength on top of overhead strikes. I don't like to use overhead strikes very often because it uses a lot of stamina. It's a costly strike to use, and the basic strike with the heavy axe I'm planning to use already is pretty stamina intensive, but this one's even more stamina intensive. But the basic strike on the heavy axe is usually enough to kill most things. Overhead strike sometimes can be overkill, or against harder NPCs later on, this could be really, really, really powerful, especially if you've built up 30 strength. If you've built up 30 strength, well, 1/4 of 30 is Have you done the math yet? It's 7 and some change. So instead of getting 3 points of extra damage, you would get 7 points of extra damage, but only if you're using Overhead Strike. I plan to be using the normal strike more than I use the Overhead Strike, so I'm not going to get this run. But this is an option. This is a very good damage dealing option. Another cool one is the Snake Talisman, which improves short sword hits chance by 10 plus a third of your agility. What a short sword is a sword that is only 1 length. And I'll show you that here as we're going to go in and look at weapons now. Short swords that have only 1 length is like a hunting sword, length 1. A rusty falchion, length 1. A cleaver, length 1. So yeah, anything that has length 1, that particular trinket that I showed you scales off of agility. So the more agility you have, the more powerful the use of a sword that's length 1 can be. However, there's a quite powerful sword down the line here that I love to use. It's called the Flameberg, but it's length 2. So that trinket does not work with this sword, sadly. So in order to get that trinket to work, know that you have to use a length 1 sword. Anyway, you can see even I haven't unlocked some of the trinkets here. Complete War in the East, quest to unlock. Defeat Wallace to unlock. So there's still things in the game I need to do. You know what? Is the Warhammer what I didn't have unlocked? I just recently unlocked a new toy. I might want to think about using it. What the heck is this? Vengeful Hand. A handy war pick that can punch through any kind of armor. I mean, interesting, I suppose. Ignores a percent of armor and increases damage based on your strength and applies bleeding. Alright, this would be a good weapon to combo with trinkets that do extra bleeding damage. I'm not planning to use this. The chair is in here. Chair was never in here before. I think some of these came with the new update, the new DLC. So I'm seeing some new things in the list. But I'm gonna go with my trusty, tried and true, old favorite here, Old Betsy, the Heavy Battle Axe. One might think that the best axe is the Executioner Axe, but it really isn't. This guy really is the best axe in my opinion. You can see that they've got the same regular attack stamina of 25. This one does damage of 20, where the Executioner does a damage of 14. But the reason this one is considered more valuable than this one is because it's got this fancy attack that isn't showing here. Why isn't it showing? That's odd. Anyway, it has this attack that basically the more tired your target becomes, the more damage you can do to the enemy. And in some fights later on down the game, you'll end up fighting a lot of very tired guys. And so if you use that special attack, you can one-shot some really powerful mobs just because they're really, really tired. And that's the kind of gimmick behind this particular weapon. However, it uses a ton of stamina. It's like 40 or 40 to 48 stamina just to do that attack. It's just intense. It's an insane attack. For that reason, I tend to go with the more damage of the heavy battle axe. It's simpler for me. I just like it. I'm kind of a brute that way. Okay, so I got my heavy battle axe. I've got my 3 trinkets. I've got my armor. And I still have money left over. What I didn't get is a pouch. And I didn't get a scabbard either. I'm going to get the nobleman scabbard. Why? Because it's going to give me prestige. I'm buying this just because it's going to give me prestige. This is a luxury buy for me. You're not going to want to be buying this with your first character. You're not going to want to buy a scabbard at all with your first character. It's just a waste of points for you. But I'm going to take it for the prestige because I've got points to burn. I'm also going to go with... I have a choice between the merchant pouch and the utility belt. This is 3 prestige, where this is 5. And then the battle belt is 7 prestige, but has 7 item capacity. I actually kind of value prestige a bit. It's going to... Over the long run, being a high prestige character is going to get you paid better. And pay can help out quite a bit. And having 7 item capacity is still quite a lot of item capacity. Yeah, it's not 8 and it's not 9. And those having 2 extra item slots could maybe make the difference. But 7 items is a lot of items anyway. So I'm going to go with the battle belt for the prestige. Alright, so I have pouches. I don't use any range stuff. I've got my trinkets. I don't need a shield because I'm using a 2-handed weapon. I've gotten my armor. I've gotten my weapons. Now, at this point, probably just going to go investing the rest of my points into attributes until I can't invest anymore. Now I'm going to... I might grab a consumable just to make the game a little easier for myself. Got a water skin. I'll stick 3 points into vitality. That still gives me 3 points of vitality to train. So, and for 30 points, I can get some ale or wine. Between ale and wine, I think wine is just the more useful item. So I'm going to get myself a bottle of wine. And there. I've used all my generation points. My character is ready to go. So anyway, this is how I'm going to start off with 23 strength, 22 agility, 22 endurance, 22 conditioning, 3 vitality, 7 craftsmanship, 10 melee weapon skill, which is the max I can invest, 5 weapon talents, which is going to be able to allow me to max out my axe talents right off the bat, and 2 extra civics talents so that I can invest in Colossus and lucky and being lucky right off the bat. So that's what I'm going to go with. Here we go. Let's proceed into the game. A breakout of yet another war between England and France was barely a surprise to anyone. The rivalry between the two kingdoms has lasted for more than a century, and small but regular armed conflicts have become commonplace for them. This war seemed to many to be an ordinary event, but the English king had other plans. I've obviously played through this many times and I've read this many times, but I haven't done this on the channel, so I have to read it to you guys. This time, he had no interest in lesser goals and aimed as high as to ascend to the throne of France itself, using its ongoing dynasty crisis as a casus belli. War preparations started by Edward III have surpassed any of his past military campaigns. Understanding the scope of his ambitions, the King of England did not delude himself. The war that he was about to embark on was going to be the greatest in history, and for an undertaking like that, a proper army was in order. The king began gathering forces long before declaring the war. Long negotiations and uncounted secret agreements bolstered the royal army with numerous allies, as well as mercenaries from all over Europe. The core of his force, as it has always been, was constituted by the best of the English chivalry, eagerly awaiting their chance to finally outshine the French chevaliers and claim the laurels of the best in the world. For the honorable knights, this coming war was also an opportunity to amass wealth off its spoils and to bask in the glory of victorious battle. And we, my friends, we are going to become wealthy off of the spoils. I can guarantee that. You two ended up among the ranks of the king's countless soldiers, but unlike the knights and mercenaries eagerly enlisted out of their own will you, a peasant's son, did not have much of a choice, as besides professional warriors, the army also required those to do its dirty work, both in meaning of digging ditches and being able to give up their lives for dirt cheap. By royal decree, a military force was drafted from the free folk. Many wealthier people were able to bribe their way out of service, but you, coming from a poor family, had no such opportunity. And thus you received a royal gift for your 18th birthday, an unexpected journey to the shores of France. Weapon in hand, you suddenly find yourself treading an unfriendly soil. You wonder whether you will ever see home again. And here I am, in France, outfitted like a knight, with the skills of a knight, right off the bat. Okay, welcome to Heads Will Roll Reforged. Soon you will embark on your first adventure, but before you do it, we have to warn you, not all risks are worth taking. This is true. When you're starting this game, you do not want to play the way you're going to watch me play. I can do things that you will not be able to do for a long, long time. Only because I'm extremely overpowered because I've played this game so many times. Anyway, blindly charging forward without considering the circumstances and consequences is the fastest way to get yourself killed. Heads Will Roll will try to present the player with a lot of difficult choices, but your answers will never be right or wrong. There's always something to lose and something to gain. No matter the choice, a good strategy for success is to approach the adventure with the intent to simply survive rather than become a hero. Don't go on dangerous endeavors if you're not confident in your success, as you may be severely punished for unpreparedness. Some quests will fail. Some characters you meet will grow to hate or despise you, and sometimes you will have to flee from battle in order to save your life. Don't let these things bother you too much, as your real goal is to make it to the very end in one piece. And the last but not least, remember to keep track of time. Training, shopping, adventuring, and completing quests will all consume it. Neglect one too much in favor of the others, and you're in for an unpleasant surprise. You've received a salary in accordance with your rank, 55 florins. You've received bonus payment in accordance with your prestige level of 0 florins. Remember what I told you about prestige giving you more money? This is how it's done. I'm not wearing my gear yet, because the game hasn't given me the opportunity to put my gear on. But, needless to say, my prestige level will rapidly go up as soon as I'm able to put my gear on, which is now. So we're going to go to the character, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to assign my civic talents. And the very first talent that I always get, that I think is the most important and powerful of all of the talents, is Colossus. Again, Colossus, every third time you train Vitality, you would also receive an additional point in Strength. Increase your Vitality and Strength by 1. Grants 2 points of injury resistance. Every third time you train Agility, you would lose... Huh? Every third point you train Agility, you would lose 1 point of Strength? Anyway, I don't know what that's saying. I've never read it before, but basically, to simplify it, every 3 points of Vitality gets you a point of Strength. I don't know what that's saying, but it doesn't sound right. Anyway, the next thing I usually go with is Lucky Devil. It boosts my luck. It doesn't boost it as much as a Rabbit's Foot would, and there's still some early story events that the Lucky Devil probably won't save me from. But my armor will, so it's all good. So this is what I pick when I start out. Now next, I'm going to choose my weapon talents. You can have up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can have 7 talents in a tree. So you're able to pick these 3, and then you can pick 4 of these last 7. And then that's all that you can put in the tree. All of these trees are pretty much the exact same thing. It's just for a different weapon. Because I have an axe, I'm going to start off with axes. The first skill here is going to lower my stamina consumption of my primary attack by 1 point. The next one lowers my stamina consumption of my secondary attack by 1 point. This, of course, gives me an increased chance to hit by 5%. And now I get to choose. I'm going to start off with lowering stamina consumption of both primary and secondary attacks by 1. Stamina matters. I have a stamina heavy weapon. It takes 25 stamina to swing it. Because of this, it takes 24, and because of this, it'll take 23. Every point of stamina adds up after a while. Alright, the next point I'm probably going to go with increased shield damage. The special thing with an axe is you can easily destroy a shield. It's the strength of the weapon class, so I might as well play into the strength of the weapon class and get extra shield damage. Alright, and that's what I'm going to pick for now, because that's all the talent points I have. Alright, so we've done this. Now I'm going to click on my inventory. Here I am, the handsome young rogue, and now I'm going to put my stuff on. And I'll even equip these things, as they're going to end up going into... I hate it when I do that. I do that more often than you would think. Son of a bitch. Okay, well, there's a consumable loss down the drain. Yeah. Okay, so you want to equip your consumables, you don't want to use your consumables. Oh, I hate it when I do that. I do that more than you would know. Alright, gear's on. So now that gear is on, these are things I suggest. You're going to want to talk to a couple of people to introduce yourself, to get to know them. The first person you need to talk... Well, you don't need to, but it would behoove you to talk to is the doctor. The better you can build a relationship with this lady, the cheaper your medical treatment will become, and you want cheap medical treatment. Her clothes, appearance, and demeanor immediately give away the fact that she is a foreigner. As she glances over at you, her eyes dim, and she obviously loses any interest in you completely. I'm looking for a doctor. The thing is, I'm looking for a doctor. You found one. My name is Cecilia Garimaldi, and I am a doctor in the service of the King of England. And you seem to be from the militia, right? I'm gonna lie. I'm gonna introduce myself as a knight in the Earl's service, because I have all that prestigious gear, and I'm gonna be able to get away with this lie. A knight then, eh? The Earl in Earl Northampton service? In that case, I beg your pardon, sire. Prestige, success. But let me ask, do you dress like that because you are poor? Or is it just Northampton fashion that I'm not aware of? I'm afraid I'm not up to date with the latest English trends. Well, you see, I prefer to be known for my deeds, not my clothes. I prefer to stand out for my actions rather than for bright, expensive rags. What loud and noble words! Very convenient, by the way, for a person in a shabby gambeson. And let me ask you, Sir Knight, have you already done any things that you could be proud of? I would be glad to hear about your feats. Not yet, but you won't have to wait long. I haven't done anything significant yet, but rest assured, you don't have to wait long. This war will make me the most famous knight in all of Europe. Yeah, I definitely believe it. I just hope that I won't have to pull the arrows out of your cold body a couple of weeks from now. Trust me, Cecilia, you won't. It'll take much later in the game before I die. So, how can I help you? And then when you get to this point, you don't really need to ask about these things, but just getting the talk out of the way is usually what I do. Ask about how she ended up in the war. She's going to say it's none of my business. I'm not sure this is your business. Ask about recipes. Forgive me if my question comes off tactless to you, but can you please share some of your recipes? I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about. I mean recipes for medicine and various potions. But why would you need it? Do you not trust my skills? It's quite opposite. I completely trust your skills. However, every drop of blood counts on the battlefield, and I just want to be sure that in case of injury I can provide myself with first aid. So I would be able to live a little longer and get to you. I see, yes, you're probably right. Many deaths could have been avoided if the soldiers knew even the basics of field medicine. Well, I'll be happy to share my recipe with you, but keep in mind, doctor's time is expensive. You can now purchase various crafting recipes from Cecilia. Their cost will depend on blah 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 blah. Alright, so I've introduced myself to Cecilia. I don't need to talk to her anymore at this point. Now I'm going to introduce myself to the next character, and that is the sergeant. Your squad is led by an old sergeant, a battered soldier who fought under the Earl during the King's ill-fated Scottish campaign. Despite his grumblings and an always dissatisfied look, the sergeant treats the soldiers very well and tries to make sure that everything is in order. You find him doing the usual cleaning weapons. Noticing you, he looks up inquiringly. I ask the sergeant about the war. Talk about the war, as if there's something to tell, really. The king set off on a grand campaign on the mainland. France is now at the weakest point ever, which presents a golden opportunity to claim a sizable piece of land from these frog-eaters. You and I, however, have nothing to rejoice about. Yes, the pay is good this time, but I strongly doubt that this war will be easy. In and out, 20-minute adventure, good money, warm bed, rich spoils. The last time I fell for this recruiter's sale pitch, I ended up in the mountains of Scotland with holes in my boots, a void in my stomach, and arrows in my knee. I still don't understand how I managed to not die then. The Earl and I miraculously got back alive. But we kicked the Highlanders' arses so badly they still can't sit. Ha ha ha. Okay. Ask the sergeant about the camp. Well, we clearly lucked out with the camp. Compared to what we had in Scotland, here we'll be living like kings. The camp and the surrounding area are full of opportunities. Just keep your eyes peeled. I know that young recruits tend to get excited about the salary, but trust the old man. Don't get hung up on it. You're probably thinking of returning home as a rich man and wowing the girls with luxurious gifts, but I'll tell you what, boy. Do not fill your pockets with useless gold. Better to put money into business. Get yourself some decent equipment. Iron looks much less pretty than gold, yes, but it may well save your life in battle. Pockets full of florins would be of little use. Back home, it is the hefty purses that make a man rich, but here, the rich is the one who is alive and in one piece. You'll understand that soon enough. Ask the sergeant about how to get good equipment. Ha! Well, if you've managed to find yourself at a war with your pants down, then you don't have many options. Take a look around the camp. Someone might have a spare gambeson, a chainmail, or a shield lying around. Most soldiers would be happy to sell their wear or trade loot for a shiny coin, but to find something useful among the junk is mostly a matter of luck, you know. Well, the second option, of course, is to loot it yourself. Scavenging corpses like a vulture isn't the most honorable act, but sometimes survival demands it. I try to make sure that my people are decently equipped, but I don't have time to wipe each and every one of your snotty noses, even if I wanted to. If you prove yourself a decent lad, then I'll see what I can do for you. So basically, if I prove myself on the battlefield, I'll be able to buy equipment from him. But right now, I'm a nobody, and I can't buy equipment from him. Okay, ask the sergeant about tactics. This is kind of BS. You can ask him if you want. This is kind of, I don't know, tutorial-ish stuff. So I'm going to skip it. So now I've talked to the sergeant, and I've talked to the young lady doctor. Those are introductions that I needed to get out of the way. Now I'm going to go do the training that is important to make sure your character is decent. You're going to notice that I no longer have 24, 23, 23, 23 in strength, agility, endurance, and coordination because I'm losing 4 points of agility to my gear. I'm losing 3 points of endurance to my gear, and I'm losing 3 points of coordination to my gear. So, gear costs attributes. Just know that. Be aware of it. But I'm going to train vitality. You notice this little red line went up here? Every time you do something, you get tired. You can go to rest. Gambling is the most effective form of rest, but it's gambling. You could lose a little bit of money, or you could win a little bit of money. That tends to generally depend on how virtuous of a person you are. You spend some time gambling and relaxing. This time luck was on your side. You won 2 florins. Praying gives you the least amount of energy back. Hanging around gives a moderate amount. Drinking actually gives probably more than gambling, but it gets you drunk. So it has a negative offset of getting you drunk. But it can give you a whole lot of rest very quickly. Alright, anyway, back to training. So I'm gonna do this a few times. And as you notice, my strength has gone up because because I've been training vitality. Every 3 points of vitality will give me another point of strength. Okay, once you get so far into the period, things happen. Having spent a bit of time in the camp, you gradually get to know and make friends with various people, including several other young men drafted from the militia. All of you have quite a lot in common, including the fact that, originating from poor families, you were forced to go to war without anything even remotely resembling decent weapons or armor. One of the guys, going by the name is Bartholomew, and having a rather shady past, suggests that you fix this situation and presents you with a plan. His idea is to borrow the necessary equipment from someone who is not in such dire need as you, the guards of Castle Dunkirk, that is towering above your camp. According to Bartholomew, the men guarding the camp are guards. In name only, they have been drafted from the surrounding countryside, just as the war started, and they can barely tell you which side of the halberd goes towards the enemy. Security is as bad as it gets, so sneaking into one of the armories in the far tower should be a piece of cake. Everything else would be figured out on site. Bartholomew claims he will take care of any locks that could be found there, so you just have to grab and carry away as much armor and weapons as you please. Several soldiers are rather impressed and willing to try. They already plan to pull it off this night. Bartholomew looks at you. So here you get your first choice. This is what the game is all about. Choices. I'm going to agree. Because I've got a soft spot for this Bartholomew. He's a bit of a rogue, he gets into a lot of trouble, but, you know, he's my bro. So I gotta have his back. So I'm gonna agree. You and several other soldiers are willing to take part. Bartholomew insists you don't dilly-dally and go at midnight. You agree to meet at the watchtower at midnight. Virtue lowered by 10. My virtue went down because I'm doing something not nice. I'm planning a heist. I'm planning to go steal stuff. That's not a virtuous thing, so I've lost virtue. However, my reputation with the soldiers has increased by 3 because I agreed to go on this wild heist with some of my fellow soldiers. You've just received your first quest. All active quests and their descriptions are listed in the quests and travel section. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to training real fast because I'll be able to do that soon enough. I'm gonna gamble again. And I'm going to gamble again. I want to get to 12 vitality. That's kind of what I go for. Now, I have other activities that I can do, which are listed under Quest and Travel. If I go to Travel, I can go to the Watchtower and do what was just brought up. I could also go on my own heist, or I could go scavenge. I'm gonna go try to get a quick scavenging run in before I go help Bartholomew. You get out of the camp and go to the surrounding forest to replenish your supplies, heading towards the unknown adventures lying ahead. Your journey takes you to a forest located near one of the villages. There you meet a local herbalist. Apparently you don't look very friendly or trustworthy because the woman hurries to retreat the moment she sees you, leaving you to collect herbs alone. And here is why I came out, to get these wonderful crafting items that are going to help me to survive. The rest of your way back goes smoothly without any adventures. Okay. Sometimes they don't go smoothly. Sometimes you run into people you have to fight. Sometimes you run into wolves you have to fight. Sometimes just weird stuff happens. But I recommend always trying to go on a scavenging run each time period. You're going to notice that all these games get divvied up into time periods. And the early game, like now, it's good to try to go on those scavenging quests because it allows you to craft things that you wouldn't be able to craft if you hadn't done that. I don't have tools right now to do the crafting, so I need to go get myself necessary tools to craft with. That would be a sewing kit. It's pretty cheap. Though I don't have much money. So I'm just going to back out of that for now. And now I'm going to go to the quest and go help Bartholomew do the watchtower. As agreed, you depart from the camp and arrive at the farthest watchtower at midnight. Bartholomew and a couple of the other soldiers are already waiting for you there. Bartholomew, clearly skilled in local geography, confidently leads you along a hidden path through a ravine and dense thickets of bushes. After about a quarter of an hour this way, you finally let yourself into the tower through a secret entrance. Inside, Bartholomew once again instructs you, forbidding you to make any sound and requiring you to move completely silently. Trying to find the weapons room in the endless maze of passages, doors, and stairs that represent the interior of the tower, you find yourself on the creaking plank floor of one of the galleries. One by one, your comrades manage to carefully walk on it without making any unnecessary sounds. It's your turn now. Gently stepping onto the boards with the grace of a domestic cat, you overcome the obstacles without any problem. Agility check passed. I want to say it's like 6 agility that's needed to pass this one. Or is it 8? It's either 6 or 8. Anyway, because it's... Obviously, I'm an overpowered character. But as a new player, this could be hard to pass. Because you might not have 6 agility. Anyway. After another quarter of an hour of strenuous wandering and games of hide-and-seek with sleepy guards, you finally manage to reach the cherished armory. While you and 2 comrades are watching the situation, Bartholomew is busy with the lock. You are starting to get worried, but a couple of minutes later, he draws your attention with a low whistle and smile, invites you with a gesture to the now open door. The choices of weapons and equipment that await you inside turn out to be not very impressive, but it still looks very solid. And so this is what I'm going to get from going on this adventure. I'll get me an old mace, worth 35 bucks, a hand axe, worth 30, a shield worth 60, and a rusty ancient helmet worth 40. That's a fair amount of money for a person who only has like 30 bucks to his name right now. Having picked up everything that you liked, you hastily embark on the return journey. Luck seems to be smiling at you, and the journey back goes without incident. But suddenly, in the dark corner, one of the doors opens before your nose, and you find yourself face to face with a guard emerging from there. Hardly making out your outline in the dark, he asks who's in front of him. You don't really know what to do, and glance at Bartholomew and his comrades, who've gone a little ahead. They're desperately signaling something to you with their hands, but you cannot distinguish their gestures in the dark. The situation quickly becomes critical. What do I do? Do I run, or do I try to stun the guard? I'm gonna try to stun the guard. Realizing how desperate your situation is, you make a decision that seems to you to be the only right one, and gathering all of your strength into a fist, you land a sweeping hook to the jaw for the guard. Perhaps because of your epic strength, or perhaps simply from the sudden drowsiness, the guard falls to the ground like a bag, and you headlong rush to flee. Strength check passed. Running for your dear life away from the tower, you cannot get rid of the feeling that they are already chasing you, and you are about to be caught. But when, after a few minutes, you finally find yourself outside by the ravine, you are surprised to realize that the silence around you at night is not disturbed by anything except your own heavy breathing. Bartholomew pats you on the shoulder with a friendly grin, praising your determination. He also adds something about the good old days, but you don't quite understand what he's talking about. Safely returning to the camp, you fall asleep, thinking about the adventures you have just experienced and realizing that you may have just made a new good friend. Reputation with the soldiers increased by 5. Bartholomew becomes your friend. EXP for completing the quest plus 20. EXP for completing the quest? I don't remember ever getting XP for completing the quest before. Oh well. So anyway, now that I have that stuff, I can come here and I can sell it. So I can have a little bit more money to play around with, as I don't need this stuff. But now that I have this extra money, what I can do is I can buy all of this leather. All this leather is going to come in quite useful right now. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here to crafting. I'm going to put 2 leather together to make a canteen. I got 2, which is a critical success. Yay me. I'm going to put 4 of them together to make one of these water things, a water skin. The same water skin that I accidentally used earlier. Okay, I didn't get a critical success, but that's fine. Now with the canteen plus the healing herb. Huh? What? Oh, I have no alchemist tool. Duh. Okay. Back. Go see the doctor. Talk. No. Heal trade. Yeah, that's what we want. Alchemist tool. Buy. Back. Crafting. Canteen plus healing herb equals medicine. And canteen plus healing herb equals medicine. Cloth makes a bandage. I'm gonna make a couple of bandages here. I believe water skin plus medicine makes potent medicine. Oh yeah, that's the level 8 recipe. So I'll be able to make that shortly. Just not right now, which is fine. It's not a big deal. And I'm not going to be able to... If I had 3 healing herbs, I'd be able to make another medicine, but I only have 2. So that's fine. I just have some extra stuff. Next, I'm going to go introduce myself to the blacksmith. Well, you found him, and he has his hands full. Now spit it out or get lost, and don't distract me from my work. I need to repair my equipment. Repair your equipment? I think you have it all mixed up, boy. Do I look like your personal blacksmith? Damn knights have already buried us up to the throats in their broken junk. We're all sweating our asses off here, And you come asking? I'm not asking you to help me for free. I'm willing to pay well for the job. Ha, what a smartass. I would gladly pay for a job well done from my own pocket. It's a shame there's no one around who can actually do that. Let's make a deal. You do 3 shifts at the forge to help me out, and I'll take a look at your junk. I'll pay you for every shift, too. If your hands aren't actually growing out of your ass, you might even earn some decent coin. New quest added labor. Working at the forge in the camp, however, yada yada yada. Working at the forge has been added to your camp activity. Basically, all that said is that in order to do this camp activity of working at the forge, it's going to make you tired. Like it just did. I need to do that 3 times, however, in order to get to know or pass this quest, if you will. But I'm not going to have the time to do that. I'm going to gamble one more time. And I've run out of time in this chapter. So now I have to hit proceed and go into the basically a fighting sequence of the game. After spending about a week at Castle Dunkirk, the army eventually began its march to the southwest. Your regiment has been assigned to advance the guard led by the king's son, Edward of Woodstock, the prince. With about half a day's march separating him from the main force, Edward's main goal is to scout ahead and make sure that there are no major French reinforcements in sight. Arriving at Cambrai, you see a large French convoy with supplies that's entering through the main gate. The town obviously has not been prepared to handle a long siege yet and is still vulnerable. The young prince, eager to prove himself to his father, chooses a daring move to try and take the city by charging through the yet open gates. Time is of the essence, so Edward leads the attack immediately. Okay, I'm going to go to my character real fast just to make sure that I have things assigned that I want to have assigned, which are these bandages. So I'm going to equip them. I'm going to equip the water skin just because I can. I'm not going to drink it this time. And that's going to free up some inventory space. I still have 12 free inventory space, so I've got plenty of room for picking up loot. But I just wanted to make more room so I could pick up more loot. Anyway, so that's done. Now we're going to proceed. Concealed by the forest surroundings Cambrai, the English managed to get close enough to catch the defenders by surprise. The prince spearheads the cavalry charge forward, crushing everything under them and breaking into the city. You and your fellow militiamen try to follow in their tracks as fast as you can, but the difference in speed is just too great. By the time you have finally gotten to the gates, there's already a large group of enemy soldiers, guards, and militiamen gathering to block your way. Welcome to the war. Very soon you'll have to shed your first blood, but before you do this, it would be wise to get acquainted with the main principles of Heads Will Roll combat system. Do you want the tutorial? No. Okay. The way I tend to play is I tend to live in balanced stance. The strength about being in balanced stance is it's hardest for the enemy to pull off a feint against you. If I hover over this, it'll tell you. Balanced stance provides no offense or defensive bonuses, least susceptible to enemy feints. Offensive stance increases melee weapon hit chance by a percentage of your weapon skill, but lowers the chances to evade or shield block enemy attacks, very susceptible to enemy feints. And defensive stance increases the chance to evade or shield block enemy attacks by a percent of your agility, but lowers your own melee weapon hit chance susceptible to enemy feints. I tend to just live in balanced stance. Anyway, I'm going to go to attack. I'm going to hit the militiamen and... Huh? My normal attack is gone. They've changed something about the game here. There's supposed to be 4 attack types here. Well, I guess I have to do overhead strike. I guess that's now my new... Sorry guys, this is some new change. I'm not sure why they did it, but it's... I'm not sure I like it. Yeah, I don't know why they did it, but anyway, I'm just gonna keep playing and shut up now. So limbs gives me half damage basically, body gives me normal damage, head gives me damage multiplier of 150%, and neck gives me 200%. If I hit the body, my axe does 20 points of damage. Actually, let's look at this. Okay. Attack damage is amplified by half of your strength. I've got 26 strength, so I get 13 damage on top of my axe that does 20 damage, which is 33 damage, plus my trinket, which gives me another 3 damage, is 36 damage. Actually, if I hit him in the body, I should kill him. So let's go for that. He's dead. Now you're going to notice that that attack caused me to lose stamina. You want your stamina to always be as high as possible, because your stamina dictates your chances of dodging enemy attacks. If I were to attack him again, then my stamina would get lower, and the next guy that came up here would have an even easier chance of hitting me, because the lower you let your stamina go, the easier you become to hit. So I'm going to hit recover, which recovered 20 of my stamina. Now then, I'm gonna figure out where I'm gonna hit him. So again, we already determined that body hits for me will kill him. What the 97% here is my chance to hit, and the 100% is the ability to bypass armor, because he doesn't have any armor on his body, more than likely, so there's got no armor to guard him. 97 is pretty much a guaranteed hit, as close as you're going to get to it. In fact, the body hit is easier than the limb hit, which is not normal. Usually the limb hit is always the easiest. They've changed a little bit of this for whatever reason. Anyway, one of two things is going to happen here. I'm either going to hit him and kill him, just like I did the last guy, or he's going to use his shield to block me. Because I'm going for his body, there's a good chance that he's going to use his shield. When you go for the limbs, the legs, the arms, it's less likely that he will successfully block your attack with the shield. So if I did the limb attack, I would wound him. But it's more likely that he won't block me with the shield. I'm just gonna go for the body, because if he does block me with the shield, I'm probably gonna break his shield anyway, because I'm using a very strong weapon and I have a very strong attack, and I'm gonna be doing a lot of damage. The shield only has 25 health, and I'm gonna be doing 36 points of damage. I'm gonna break that shield if he does block it, so there's no point in me using a special shield splitting attack. That's just going to cost me more stamina to get the same result. Whoops. So I'm going to go with the overhead strike to the body. And he blocked with the shield. I broke the shield, and I still did some damage to him. Now, I used a percentage of my stamina to do that attack. He then did a feint, and he successfully pulled off the feint, causing me to lose a little more stamina. So I'm going to recover. And I'm going to recover again, because again, you want to keep this green bar as full as possible all the time. And now I'm going to finish him off. Doesn't really matter what we go with. We're going to go with the head. Just to shatter his head. And now he's dead. Okay, unable to stay in your attack, the enemies are slowly giving in and soon begin a hasty retreat. With a pause in the action, you take a look around and see several bodies of your dead foes. Looting, especially during active combat, is generally frowned upon in the army. This, however, does not deter many soldiers, predominantly from poorer backgrounds, from pillaging their rivals' corpses. Their motives are easy to understand. In war, even a single piece of good equipment can make the difference between life and death. Oh, you bet your bottom dollar that I'm searching, because I'm going to sell this junk, because I'm going to get rich. And I don't care what you guys think, because you're going to love me because I'm the best soldier in your damn army, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Alright, so I got a commoner's belt, leather armor, improvised shield, lesser silver ring. Loot. Loot to sell. Alright, we're going to go and hit proceed again. Due to the confusion, you managed to overcome the poorly organized defenders in a swift and rather hectic fight. Their tactical retreat into the walls quickly escalates to a chaotic rout. You storm into the town proper, hot on their heels. Inside the walls, however, the situation is already changing. The prince's knights are struggling to hold against the superior number of French, and slowly but surely are falling back towards the main gate. The prince could definitely use some infantry support, but rushing to his aid may prove to be a dangerous undertaking. Not willing to leave Prince Edward in danger, the Earl quickly calls for volunteers to join the rescue effort. The rest are told to hold the city gates for safe retreat thereafter. It seems only seasoned and fierce warriors are joining the Earl. It's unlikely someone will point a finger at you if you refuse. Especially given that you are wounded and exhausted, barely able to even stand straight. Well, I might be a little tired, but I'm certainly not wounded. This is clearly a good opportunity to prove yourself to the Earl, maybe even to the Prince himself, but right now, on the other side of the scale lies no less than your own life, and the question is whether or not this is the time to risk it. You bet your bottom dollar it's time for me to be a hero. Do you want to go with the Earl? Heck yeah. Driven by courage and some impulsive honor, you join the daredevils attempting to rescue the prince and his retinue. Many of your fellow militiamen are openly surprised by your bold move. The Earl, his first time noticing you since the start of the campaign, also seems impressed. Reputation with the Earl has increased by 7. Reputation with the soldiers have increased by 5. Several other soldiers follow your example and join the group, obviously wanting to keep up. Bartholomew is among them, who notes with a grin that you never cease to amaze him with your recklessness. However, considering what you have done for him, he simply has no choice but to follow you anywhere. Drawing his sword, the Earl himself leads you into an attack through a narrow street toward the prince and his men, who are practically surrounded in the town square nearby. You soon find your path blocked by well-armed soldiers from the town garrison, clearly trying to cut off the prince's party from reinforcements. Alright. If you notice here, I'm a little winded. So it's showing that I'm at an exhaustion stage of 2. Exhaustion stage of 1 is fresh. If I mouse over here, both Bartholomew and this guy I'm facing are fresh. I'm winded. The reason I'm winded is because I looted that stuff instead of taking a break. So because I looted, I'm a little tired. But that's okay. I can handle it. I'm going to... So I could roll the dice on a headshot, which 70% chance of bypassing his armor, or 70% of the damage will be applied, but a 57% chance that I hit. So about 50-50. But a good chance that I do some serious damage and kill him in one shot. There's a better chance that I'm going to hit his limbs, and a limb hit actually does added fatigue damage to the enemy. And because I'm here with my buddy Bartholomew, I feel... how do I put it? I feel responsible for his life. If I go for the headshot and I miss, well, there's a chance that this guy ends up hitting Bartholomew and hurting him. And if I don't kill this guy fast enough, Bartholomew may end up dying in this engagement. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to take the safest route possible here. And I'm going to go with the limb hit. And the reason I'm going with the limb hit is because the body hit has a very low chance that I'm going to get through the armor. Even though it's the most likely to hit. Most of the damage, if not all, is going to either be deflected or mitigated by the armor. The limb hit, I'm more than likely going to get through the armor. I'm going to apply fatigue damage to him. And there's a good chance I'm going to injure him, causing him to be less effective in the fight. So basically, I'm probably going to wound him. But I missed. And Bartholomew missed. And he missed. We all missed. Now I'm going to recover. Bartholomew managed to do a feint, which blinded the enemy. And here we are, back in the fight again. Now you're going to notice I have better odds of hitting him now. Why? Because the green bar is lower. Higher the green bar, the better your chances of avoiding being hit. That's why you always recover and keep this green bar topped off. Anyway, I'm going for the headshot this time because it's very likely I'm going to hit, and it's probably going to be enough to kill him. Neck will definitely kill him, but there's a not that small possibility that I don't hit him. So I'm going this way. Oh my god, are you kidding me? I missed him with the knife. And now Bartholomew's hurt. He's bleeding. I'm feeling bad because he's following me into this mess. I'm not going to get Bartholomew killed. Alright, 100% chance of hitting the neck. This guy's dead. Off with his head. And Bartholomew survives. Do you loot the bodies? Of course I do. I'm the looting bastard, man. I loot it all. Alright, and proceed. You and the Earl arrive just in time to prevent the French from encircling the prince's retinue. Bloodied and tired, the prince immediately gives the order for a full retreat, which fortunately goes without incident. The battered town defenders hesitate to give chase, and instead settle with the status quo restored. As you fall back to safety and catch your breath, you are slowly filled with the proud realization that you've just managed to survive your first battle. While you come back to your senses and tend your wounds, the main force of the English army is steadily approaching the city. Columns of people, horsemen, and wagons, all stretching for several miles, flood from the horizon like an endless river, slowly pouring around the city from all sides. Having found the sergeant among the survivors, you ask him what will happen now. He responds with only one word: siege. And now we're on to the next chapter of the game. Over the next few days, you watch as a new fully fledged city gradually grows all around the walls of Cambria. Thousands of people, hundreds of tents and awnings, dozens of various siege and assault weapons, and long lines of convoys arrive every day from almost all directions. You would not dare to call all this a mere camp any longer. According to the sergeant, who is constantly aware of the going-ons, the king will not delay the siege. The success of the entire campaign depends on the speed of this attack, and any further delay will give the French a chance to thoroughly gather their strength. This is why the usual siege tactic, winning the city through a war of attrition, is not going to fly with Cambrai. The sergeant says the assault should take place in about a week, when the siege engines are fully deployed and the rest of the reinforcements have been caught up with the army. For now, all you can do is take advantage of what peaceful days remain. You have received a salary in accordance with your rank, and you received a bonus in accordance with your prestige level of 87 florins. Alright, and the cat's asking to go out. Be right back. Alright, we are an hour and a half in. This is probably a good place to wrap up this first episode. Yeah, this has been episode 1 of Heads Will Roll Reforged. I've got all of the DLC available. Where we end up going in this story, I don't even know yet. I kind of go whichever way the wind kind of sends me in, so I don't have any planned route that I'm taking into the game this time around, but I would be interested in seeing some of the newest content. So if I see some likely unusually new stuff, I might go that route. At the same time, who knows? I might go with something that's already been in the game for a long time that I haven't managed to do before. We'll just see when the time comes. Anyway, I am James Johnson, aka Softwareblade. Hopefully you're enjoying the content. If so, please smash that like button, consider subscribing, and until the next time all, peace.